He don't play.
Fuck.
Well, first, what was everybody have a good Thanksgiving?
It was very nice.
Yes, sir.
Food. I didn't weigh my food. I'm like Dom. Dom took the scale even for Thanksgiving. I saw.
Hey man, that's what happens when you come to my house. I'm gonna pull out my tools, Um, I only did that because uh I didn't want to deviate that much.
Mm,
Um, I prefer to save that for because my Thanksgiving was chicken and potatoes,
mhm.
um, and
Pretty
some
much a bodybuilding meal, anyways.
yeah. So I'm like, well, I might as well stay on plan because it's not like I'm having there was no dessert. I didn't have any of that kind of stuff. So which is normal here. Uh I mean, hell, my mom brought salmon over. Okay. Like I wasn't doing like when I go to my mom's side of the family's house. So my mom, y'all, I don't know if y'all know this. My mom's side's black, my dad's side's Italian. If I went over to any of their houses for Thanksgiving, it would be a whole different story. Like when we went over to my Aunt Kim's house, my wife had never met her, so I took her there with my son, and it took days to prepare the lasagna, right? It ain't like it's like legit Northern Italian food.
Mhm.
So, you know, brajol and um, Italian meatballs that are like this freaking huge. And, so that's different. If we had been doing something like that, it'd have been like, well, sorry, Chris,
Yeah.
bad day. And he would have been cool with it. It'd have been all fine. But
Yeah.
when it's here at my house, or, shoot, if I go to my grandma's house, you know, y'all ain't from the South. It would have looked like that. So, that being said, yeah. So, Cleef, what about you? Did you do anything?
For Thanksgiving?
Yeah.
No, I just went to some family house. My girl's family's houses. I ate about I think three big meals and a
Nice.
protein shake. So you know me, I'm the only one struggling out of us four. I'm
Man,
I'm
you ain't
stuck.
struggling, man. What,
I'm
man?
struggling.
No,
I'm
this is
I'm at two. Well, the journey was I did my Emerald's Cup in May.
yeah.
I was on stage at 228. Still too small. Well, for me, I believe. Even though I won it, I just still feel I have a lot to put on. And so I went into the bulking phase. I got up to 265, and I just got stuck there for about 2 months. So me and my coach, we went back down. I went to a mini cut phase. I got back down to 247, and now I'm re-jumping up the system, and I'm bulking up again. So now I'm at 260. So I'm just trying to get over 265. I want to get to 280. That's the plan. But my metabolism is so fast, and I freaking my leg days. I feel like I sweat so much, and I burn so much calories, and it's just I don't know. I just sweat, and then I'm trying to force the food down, and it's just hard. It's just hard. And then a busy day also with all the clients and the family, and it's like by the time it's time for me to eat my next meal, my stomach is still full from the last meal. I'm like, God damn, it's just
Yeah.
that's the struggle I'm having.
Yeah, and that's not sustainable. Like you're eventually going to just hit a wall and you're not going to be able to eat the food. I've been there trying to force feed, like drink, swallowing water, sips of water with the chicken to get the food
Mhm.
down.
Yep.
You can only do that for so long, and you're just not going to be able to do it.
Yeah. It turns into a food eating contest.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
try
Joe, where are you sitting right now?
I'm like 293 right now. We just
You guys are huge.
I'm on
Joe,
PCT right now, so I'm natty. So I'm good.
I'm asking you this question because guess where I'm at right now?
288.
295, 295,
Joe, I swear to you, 293.
Oh shit.
293. We're
Bros
at
about did it.
280, 293, 293, 260. You see? I'm way below you guys. I gotta get my weight up.
Samson's talking about 330. We're gonna blow him out of the water.
So I was concerned. I was like, I was talking to my coach. I was like, I don't know if I want to be pushing 300 like that. I've never pushed
Mhm.
300. I topped that at 293 last off season. He's like, as long as as long as we're staying healthy and we don't look, we're staying tight in the check-in photos, and I'm not really worried about the weight. We'll get back down. I'm
Mhm.
like, okay.
Yep.
I mean, there's some truth to that though, right? We get
Yeah.
caught up in the scales sometimes. Like, all right, let's back up, Mister. I'm trying to catch up. I'm too small. You look like you're bigger
Yeah, I
than
was
all
about
of
to
them.
say.
Like your shape and your muscle bellies and the insane fullness you have. Even I'm sure your flat looks fuller than all of our
Yeah,
flat.
right.
So, you know,
So Cleef was just here. He was just here in Vegas. Was that a week ago? 2 weeks ago?
2 weeks ago, yeah.
Yeah, Cleef was just here in Vegas 2 weeks ago. We and him and I trained together at New Tech Gym.
Mhm.
And
Great gym.
I walk in, I look to my right. I'm like, God damn, Cleef is and he said, "Well, we train." I'm like, "We'll train back." And I'm
oh
training
Lord,
back, and I'm training back with this dude, and I'm
that
like,
looks ridiculous.
and I'm like, and I found myself like, because if someone's gonna come to the gym and train with me, right, I'm gonna be like, okay, this is what I typically do. These are my favorite machines. This is kind of some of the stuff I do, and usually I'm like leading the workout, and then we're training back, and I'm finding myself looking over at Cleve while he's training. I'm like, I'm walking Cleve through a back workout, and this dude's got a bigger back
Yeah.
than most than most people do. And I was just like, wow,
Enjoying
I'm
it.
kind of foolish right now.
Have
Yeah, see, I'm just focused really on the weight. I don't know why. Being next to you guys or being next to anybody, me being on stage at 228 pounds, and if everybody else is capped off at 240, 242, yeah, I'm gonna have the lines, the classic look, but if it just comes down to size and muscle, I'm gonna lose every time. And if I have that, even if I can get up to 235, slowly but surely get up there. I don't know. I'm stuck on that weight.
so that's interesting. Because as soon as you started saying that, the first person I thought of is Terrence. Terrence is not anywhere near his weight cap. He
No.
hasn't been near his weight cap for since they increased it. I don't know if he's ever hit his weight cap. So his shape has carried him, obviously, with his presentation. It's among the best, if not the best. But his shape is so classic that it's hard to stand next to him. Even, and we all competed with him twice in a row, right? When we did New York, when James, Joe, and I did New York, Terrence was there. When we did Pittsburgh, Terrence was there. Even though Jose Ma was up there, and a lot of other guys who outsize him, he it was. I mean, it was. I think Pittsburgh was close. It was closer, but he he didn't get beat because of size,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So I think that's a perfect point about shape, because you just brought up how we competed against Terrence at two shows this year. I'm right next to him in the lineup, right? Because
Yeah,
alphabetically. So imagine having to walk on the stage and you're walking behind him, and you're like, oh my God. I had to
yeah,
do it twice, right? I had to do it twice. And I'm thinking to myself, Terrence is like 180-ish, maybe low 190s. I was 240 at Pittsburgh. I was 238 at New York. I outweigh Terrence by like what, 50, 40 some pounds. And there's a couple shots at Pittsburgh. I look, uh, comparable with him, but in reality, if you look at all the shots and everything, just his shape just carries him. And I think in classic, that's one of the things that, what's the difference between open and classic? There's not a lot of them, according to the judges, but in my opinion, I think having a certain shape makes you classic. And it's small waist, wide shoulders, the X frame, all that stuff, as opposed to, and I'm not picking on him, but like a Nick Walker in open. Could Nick Walker do classic if he made the weight cut?
No.
No. Let's keep it real, right? So I think shape has a lot to do with what classic physique is. You have to have a certain shape to you to not get overlooked in the division. And Terrence is just, he's the perfect example of that. He's got that shape. He's got like that Lee Labrada thing going on, like back in the day, you know? So as taller guys, we have to find a way to have that comparable shape to bring it to a taller physique. So you have to look at those taller bodybuilders from back in the day, like Arnold, like
Yeah.
Barry May. I don't know
I'll
if you guys
just
are familiar with him.
keep it a C-bum for now, for me. Because,
C-Bomb, like
he's about
those
six
taller
one, six
those
two.
taller bodybuilders are the ones we got to look at because we're not going to be able to have the same shape as those shorter guys.
Well, man, this I have all these notes, and then I didn't write anything down about this. Uh, so that brings up a good question of, I mean, obviously we hear the question of what is classic, and I think you nailed it. It's bodybuilding with greater emphasis on proportion, shape, and symmetry.
Lines.
Um, but I think what's happening, and we said this before, that classic is shaping the expectation of open, right? It's
Influencing.
why guys like Nick Walker may have done better in the era of Marcus Rule, and
I
uh,
mean,
Cutler.
in Cutler and some of these other mass monsters. Although honestly, even Jay had pretty decent shape. But he main when I say shape, the big emphasis being that he kept his waist pretty tight for his size. Um, he could keep it flat in a front double. Uh, I don't ever recall Jay having the turtle shell kind of thing going on, right? But either way, um, I think we're starting to see that. And so it's going to narrow that gap of understanding or the difference between what is open and what is classic. I think eventually it's it's going to be more of a, well, we want the shape of classic and open, and we want the size of open and open. So what are we doing with classic now? What's happening, the discussions are already happening around 212. You keep hearing Sean Ray, who else said this
Deep
recently?
Priest.
Lee Priest saying, why do we have a 212 anymore? It had a
mhm.
purpose. Its purpose has been fulfilled. Now we're at a point where you've got Sean Clarita, Keon, they're going into open and they're holding their own.
Derek.
Derek became the Mr. Olympia from 212. John Jewett has gone from 212 to open pretty successfully. And so what you're seeing is, okay, do we need this division anymore? Uh, it and the same argument used to exist around height classes. They used to be open, had a tall class and a shorter class way back. And what you're coming to find out is, well, wait a minute, what are the judging criteria for bodybuilding? If it's size, shape, symmetry, proportion, conditioning, then why do we need to have a division for somebody who's smaller if they can bring all but one of those things to the same to equivocally, if all things being equal, the only thing they have a little bit less of is size. That's not to say they can't win, and they've proven it, right? We've seen it happen. I mean, Lee Priest used to do it all the time. Sean Ray was one of those guys. They weighed way less. They gave up tens and tens of pounds to other guys. And I mean, well, classic example, Lee Priest beat Ronnie Coleman, right?
Mhm.
The smallest dude at the show beat the biggest, maybe one of the biggest guys in the show.
Well, there's another example. Sean Ray arguably should have beat Dorian Yates probably twice.
Yeah.
There was a couple years where Dorian won the Olympia. I love Dorian Yates, by the way,
Yeah.
but he had a couple years where he did the Olympia where he had an injured bicep, and it
Yep.
was very clear and obvious on stage that Dorian was injured, right? He still won, but Sean Ray was second place, and everyone back in the 90s said that Sean Ray should have had at least one Olympia, if not two. And that's why I kind of understand where they're coming from, because back in the 90s, you had Sean Ray going up against uh, Dorian Yates, and you had Lee Priest going up against Ronnie Coleman. So it's like, if they could do it, why are we segregating it now? Like, you know what I mean? So it's like,
Yeah.
but at the same time, you have to be careful, because if you get rid of the 212, some of those 212 guys, and you've already seen it this year in the Classic, there was a couple 212 guys that dropped down the Classic. Um, and I know one of them won a show, qualified for the Olympia, and another one did very well. So you might see a lot of 212 guys go to the Classic, which is not good for taller guys like us, because a lot of those 212 guys are pretty damn short. So
Yeah.
we're gonna have more of a problem dealing with those shorter guys.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough. On the one hand, I'm like, they can fix that by increasing our weight cap at the taller side. But on
Well,
the other hand, I'm like, well, okay, what do I have to do with what I've got to overcome that? And
but
that's
that's another thing. Like, where did they come up with those weight caps? Like, I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm just saying, like, where did they decide that, hey, someone who's 6'2", me and Cleef, right? Someone who's 6'2" should only be able to weigh up to 242 on stage. Where did they get that number? Right. And again, when they updated the weights, what, a couple years ago, year or two ago, the taller guys got maybe like a pound or two, and these shorter guys got like 8 to 10 pounds. And I'm just like, what dictated and justified that?
well, that that segues into what Joe had sent over as some good talking points. And I want to make sure we take advantage of having our celebrity guest on. So I don't want to this gets into something called anthropometrics, right? Which is like the study of measurement, the human body in terms of measurements and limb length and stuff like this. Because when you start looking at the weight caps, the height differences, the structural differences, there's so much variability. You can have two guys at the same height who look drastically different. One has a long torso and shorter legs. One has the opposite. One has muscle bellies that are shorter or longer. And so, like, the peak on somebody's bicep, their biceps both have the same origin insertions relative to the skeletal structure, right? I'm inserting at the same radial tuberosity as everybody else. I'm still a human, but the way it inserts in terms of the length of that muscle belly and that tendon and where that juncture is, it it looks like a freaking mountain on one dude, and on the other guy, it looks somebody came to mind. I'm not going to drop that name. It doesn't sound right. Um, it looks like, just a tabletop. So, all those things I think play into it. All that being said, going back, you trained with Cleef like 2 weeks ago. We all have seen what Cleef looks like. Dude, I actually, before we even go there,
So this,
what shows have you done, man? You gotta give us an intro real quick. Like, so what was your starting point? And then, from that kind of origin to where you are now.
okay, what was that? 2022. I started at the Mecca show at Queens College. I believe that was Steve's first show. That was Bev's first show at Queens College, or maybe second. So
Nice.
I won that show, won the overall there. Then I went to, I believe, nationals in Florida. I was so cocky because that was my first show. So I was so cocky. I'm here eating everything the week of. I'm like, don't worry, I got this. Freaking went there, came in like came in ninth. I was like, oh hell no, that just hurt my feelings. So that was in December. So I took off. I took 6 months off. No, I didn't take 6 months off. The next show was 6 months at Universe. And then I dialed in. I was tight. I got ninth place. I was never again dialed in. I won my pro card at Universe. So once I got that, the next show I did was Pittsburgh's Pro. I was 10th. I was first call out 10th. And then I did New York Pro. I was no at Pittsburgh Pro I was sixth first quarter, and at New York Pro I was 10th. That was in 2024. 2024. Then I took the time off to build my legs. Then I did Emerald's Cup this past year in Seattle. I won the overall 35 plus Masters Cup. I thought it was a Olympia qualifier. That's why I did the show, but they said only 40 and over was Olympia qualifier. So either way, I did it. I won first place, so felt good about myself. The head judge came to me and said, "You have a great physique. Your upper body is phenomenal. If you could just build your legs up a little." And that's I've been hearing that my whole career in bodybuilding. Just bring your legs up a little. If you match the upper body, you'll be perfect, perfect, perfect. So from there, I took that time off. That was in May, so I took the whole year off again. All right, let me focus on my legs again. And here we are now. And I want to get ready for Tri City. I want that to be my first show, but I want to see where my weight is first before I actually choose my show. But I will be doing New York Pro regardless. I already have that made up in my mind for that to be a show that I'm gonna do.
That's right.
Huh?
That's right at home for you, man.
Yeah, so yeah, I got to do it. So I got to
Yeah,
do
see, you guys are all positioned in good places.
it.
You were
So it's only six
definitely,
shows in total. Only six shows. So I don't know if that's a lot. I think that's a little for the 4 years I've been competing. I've
yeah.
been here just 4 years, six shows.
And you already won a pro show. That's
Yeah.
pretty impressive.
Feel
Um,
good.
all right. Well, let's talk about training a little bit. So you trained with James like 2 weeks ago. So
Trained with Joe too, right before he did his show.
Yep, yep, right before Dubai, I believe it
before,
was.
oh
Yeah.
my
Yeah,
goodness.
right before
Yeah,
Dubai. Came down, worked out at Kings and Queens in Long Island. We
yep.
did it back. Oh, we did back too,
We
matter of
did
fact.
back
Yeah,
too.
we did it back there. Yeah.
Yeah, you
So
smoked me. I was so tired that day. Oh my God, I was freaking hungry and tired.
how many
Yeah.
weeks out were you at that point, Joe?
I think he was leaving
Uh,
that week, I think.
I think it was like under 4. I can't remember exactly. I'd have to look back at the pictures in the video, but I was close.
Is that what that shirt's from? Because that looks like Arabic.
This is
That does.
Venus, yeah, out in Dubai.
Nice, man.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
Um, for me, I kind of boil it down to like two priorities. And part of this is plays into the fact that I'm, 38, but I look at it from a longevity standpoint and an efficiency standpoint. I want to be able to do this for as long as I can,
Mhm.
but also in terms of longevity, I want to be able to make progress for as long as I can, not just go through the motions. So if I'm doing, if I'm training in such a way that I have to deload every 4 weeks, that's not productive, right? Or if my joints and my tendons and ligaments are just aching and inflamed all the time, well, that's no good either. And that kind of plays into the efficiency aspect. I want to grow as much as I can with the least amount of injuries, the least amount of fatigue accumulation, right? I want to be as efficient as I can. So those are the ways I kind of broke it down. And then it's like, well, how do you do that? Well, the focal point for me needs to be the connection between, that mind muscle connection we always hear about. Um, if I can capitalize on that the most, meaning I am biasing the muscle I'm targeting 100% as much as I possibly can, understanding that I'm never going to truly completely isolate a specific muscle. But if I can bias it as much as I can with the and recruit as many muscle fibers as possible, then I probably don't need to do that with the max load that I could move. And that to me is the difference between, weight training and bodybuilding, or weightlifting and bodybuilding. So that's my way of looking at it in a nutshell. Um, and I'm a stop there, and I want to hear what you guys think. Like, what is your training philosophy and your approach? Obviously, there's more to it. There's the intensity stuff, and I can come back to that if you want. But what do you got, Joe?
Yeah, I'm kind of similar to you. I think over the years I've developed a better mind muscle connection. So maybe in the beginning there was a lot more move and weight versus contracting the muscle because I can look back at some training videos from 5, 6 years ago, and I was moving pretty much the same amount of weight as I am now, but I'm moving it much more efficiently now. One thing specifically for me has been like engaging chest. I have way super dominant shoulders, and it's probably because all my chest days were just shoulder days also. Um, so learning to actually chest press and use my pecs has been huge. But the general training philosophy for every muscle group I do is it's pretty low volume in terms of working sets, 1 to 2 working sets per movement. Always every working set is always to failure. If I have a spotter, I'm going to use some force reps, and I always do some kind of intensifier, whether it's rest pauses or drop sets. It's pretty much the same thing with every single thing. I just try to completely exhaust the muscle.
It's
So
interesting. I don't usually do intensifiers.
yeah,
Is that the same way for you guys?
Yeah, not too
And
much. I don't throw in too
prep
much.
it's different. Off season, off
Yeah.
season sometimes, but not as much as prep. Prep is way more intense.
Hmm. That's true.
So yeah, Joe, to that point, the intensifier part in prep, I definitely limit it a lot more because obviously as we can become more depleted, the risk of injury, that balance starts to shift. And it's like, okay, well, I'm not growing at 4 weeks out. So at this point, I'm more concerned about being able to recover, but maintaining the tissue, not necessarily accruing
yeah,
more tissue.
stimulate the muscle, and that's yeah. I would say around 4 weeks out, I kind of dial things back a little bit too.
Yeah,
Maybe not quite to failure. Might still do a couple drop sets just to force some blood in, but it's
yeah.
not in the same way where I'm trying to completely exhaust the muscle.
So when you say you mentioned drop sets and stuff, has there? First, I agree. I'm doing the same thing. This is a big change for me too. Back in the day, 20 something years old, um, I understood kind of, I'd heard mind muscle connection, but dude, 20, 23, 24 years old, my brain's like watching Ronnie Coleman, like, oh, okay,
Yeah,
I got to fill up the leg press, baby. I got to
yeah,
put 5 plates on the squats,
yeah. Maxing out on bench every week.
yeah, nobody else in here is putting 405 on. I'm gonna rep this out.
Mhm.
Like, okay, I was no bigger for it.
No.
Hmm.
Uh, and so now, and that was back in, I think everybody was doing this. 4 sets of freaking everything, right?
Yes.
It
Yeah.
was like, I'm gonna do, and it didn't, I look back now and in my mind then it's like, oh, this makes sense. And now I'm like, gosh, that didn't really make a whole lot of sense.
If you're
Um,
training hard, I don't think you can do 4 sets.
yeah,
But the one caveat to that, and I think it's from training with my girlfriend all the time, people that are smaller that aren't as strong, they seem to be able to recover quicker. So, say you're a 130-pound girl and you're leg pressing, I don't know, 4 plates on each side. You probably can do 4 working sets because, even though you're exhausting your muscle, the actual amount of work that those muscles are doing is not even close to us doing 12 plates on each side or something like that. So, like, I don't know if you ever work out with your girls, but they like recover so much quicker than me. I'll be fucking dying on the floor for 5 minutes between sets because I physically cannot recover for the next one, and they're ready to go 30 seconds later.
so there's more to that. I believe, if I can recall correctly, women do recover faster for some reason. And
Hmm.
that's why you'll often see females are doing 3 leg days a week.
Yeah.
Um, and
Yeah.
so I did that. I put my wife on that.
Hmm.
And I'm like, well, let's track your recovery because I don't want you doing this if you're not recovered by the next workout.
Hmm.
And that's not to say they're all 3 leg days are full, quads, hams, glutes. It's not like that. But there is there's still some repetitiveness on a leg day,
Hmm.
right? You're still hitting glutes every time. You're still hitting hams every time. Um, and she recovered. I'm like, I would never be able to do that.
No,
Not a
no.
chance. Um, and so I agree with you. That's what I've observed. And I've also heard other top like bodybuilding coaches slash educators mention the same thing. And we kind of see it, right?
Yeah.
Uh, we see the wellness girls hitting legs, 3 and 4 days a week somehow, and you're like, and they're growing. So
My two
clearly,
leg days a week are like I'm barely recovering. Like the day before my next leg day, I'm like, am I really going to be able to train legs tomorrow?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you're sitting down, dude. It reminds me of the days of I used to. So as a kid, and maybe I'll overlay some photos of this. I used to ride my dirt bikes with my dad and my brother and whatever. And I got older and I had to have street bikes. There was just no
Mhm.
way I couldn't. And I found out that leg days and riding don't go together at all. And you're like, okay, well, I won't ride it to the gym on a leg day. I'll wait a couple days. And then you realize, man, my legs are killing me. I don't know if this is I'm not gonna be able to make it home. You get off the bike, your hamstrings are killing you, and you're like, this was a horrible idea. You're cramping up while
Yeah.
you're riding. So I get what you mean. Like
Yeah.
it's different for us. Uh, and so to that point, so Cleef, you're
Well,
yeah,
I'm gonna say that's actually different from me. I like to work pyramid sets where depending on the exercise, depending on the workout, depending on where I am in my prep, it's either I can go from 20, 15, 12, 10. I'll go from 12, 8, 6, 4, depending on a real heavy compound movement. I'll go from 10, 8, 6, 4. Um, for me, I always write down and log my book also. The way I train, I like to go up at least 5 pounds every week. That's how I test my strength every week and let me know that my workouts are working if I'm able to go up 5 pounds every week. Now, as I keep going, the 15 reps, I may start off with 135 week one. And then by week 10, those 15 reps as a warm up is now 275 pounds, me just going to the gym and doing instead of me warming up 135. Because now I've been doing it so long. Now my warm up, I can just go to the gym and start at 275 now as a warm up, opposed to, all right, let me warm up first, let me do my stretches because I've been growing that pyramiding every single week, staying with the same program until I plateau. And then when I plateau, I'll just change it to a different exercise. But it could go from dumbbell incline bench to Smith or to the hammer incline. But at the same time, I just like to pyramid up because I believe I just need a better warm up. I get stronger as I go. Sometimes I do the 2 sets of warm up of a 6-6, and then I go two straight sets of 12 reps. But sometimes I feel like when I'm done, my joints may be, a little achy after
yeah,
because it's not for me being this strong. Let's say I could bench 4 or 5 for 12 reps on the flat bench. What is my 2 sets of warm ups going to be? 135, 225, 2 sets of warm up, and then jump straight to 4 or 5. That doesn't work for me. That's going to kill my. I'm not gonna be able to push that 4 or 5 the same.
much right.
But if I do 135, 225, 275, 315, by the time I get to 4 or 5, some people are tired by that, but not me. Me, I just felt like all of that stuff was just a warm up. Now I can really push this 4 or 5 because now my joints and my ligaments are warmed up properly. That's for me though. So
No, completely agree. No, no, no. That's I so I guess I should clarify. I say working sets. Let's use the bench example. Those first three, 4 sets to get me to my working set, I don't count
yes,
those. Those are warm-ups.
yes,
Um, and you got to do that if you want to be safe, right? Especially when you're talking about that kind of weight. If I were to, I don't know if at any age I would be able to get away with this, but certainly not now. If I were to go in there and just warm up 1 set and then go straight to my top set,
oh no,
number one, to your point, I probably won't be able to move it as well as I could have if I had warmed up. It will feel heavier. It will probably hurt in places that it's not supposed to hurt. And
yeah.
number two, um, I'm risking injury for no real good reason other than what I'm trying to save some time, like save 5 minutes. And I think that's the point. That's the point that people misunderstand starting out is the warm up is it's got more than one purpose, right? It's but the most important thing is to understand its purpose is not to count toward actual work, right? I'm using it to start that mind muscle connection for number one. I know if I'm connecting well, if during my warm up, that first set, I'm already I'm like, oh my gosh,
Yeah,
yeah,
you're engaged. You're ready to
feel
go.
it. There
Yeah.
it is. I'm getting a little bit of a pump already, but it's not exhausting. It's just enough.
Mhm.
Um, I think that's one reason, and then of course, the ones we already kind of talked about. So I agree with you. Uh, that said, my warm-ups usually stay around the same in terms of, well, okay, I did back yesterday. So I got on the high row, and do I need to warm up with one plate on each side? That's probably,
No, yeah, that's too light.
yeah. But there was a point where that might have been a warm-up weight. Now the
Yeah.
warm-up weight is, two plates on each side. That's the first warm-up, right? And then I'll put three plates on and like, okay, I'm feeling good or whatever. And it's not so rigid as to say you can't change that. If you get in the gym, you're like, you know what? I think I need one more warm-up, do it. I don't think anybody's saying you got to, it has to be this black and white thing. Um, which is actually something I wrote down the other night. It's like, that's bodybuilding. It's so individualistic, and there's so much gray when it comes to nutrition, response, training, and you can see it over time. Look at all of the competitors, even the ones that James was mentioning earlier. You look at how they train, and none of them were all doing it the same.
Nope.
Jay talks about it frequently, how he trained versus how Ronnie trained versus how Dexter Jackson trained. Dexter has no significant injuries to speak of, and yet he was the most winningest pro bodybuilder and had arguably, I think he had the longest career, active,
Mhm.
pro. And so, there's, I think there's multiple ways to skin the cat. And a lot of times we get caught up in, oh, you got to do it this way. It's like, but do you? You got to do what works.
Oh,
That's what,
yeah.
What are your guys' thoughts on so speaking of warm-ups, I do the same thing. I warm up as much as I need. I don't know. I don't ever push it much past like I don't know if it's in the beginning of the workout and I'm still totally cold, like first one or two exercises, I might do like three or four warm-ups,
yeah.
pyramid it up, maybe 15 reps to get some blood in the muscle for the first few, but like something I could do 50 reps of. Um, but then the one thing that I started incorporating recently was a primer set. So I get up to my working weight. Say I'm gonna do I don't know, 140s on the dumbbell press or something like that. I'll throw the 140s on and I'll do a set of four and then just stop. And I found that it primes my central nervous system way better. So that those four reps feel way harder than my subsequent set where I'm gonna do my working set to failure with the same weight.
Mhm.
And I found that that helps. It does take a little bit more time for the workout because it's really it's not helping grow any muscle, but it's helping my body connect with that weight and be prepared for what it's got to do going to failure.
James,
And speak-
what does your training look like?
In the I go back to how it started, right? I played football for a long time. And as an athlete, you know, we were always doing the same movements for football, squatting, benching, uh hang clean, stuff like that. So um it all started back then, training with intensity, not so much focused on the length of duration of the negative, right? We're just trying to move the damn weight, right? We're trying to get stronger to be able to push people around on the football field, right? Um, the way I train is still similar to the way I train playing football. And the day I'm talking about specifically is legs.
You
So
train
as
angry. I've
taller
seen your
bodybuilders,
videos.
you guys know you guys got to train legs pretty intensely, right? So um I train legs according to that style. Like you guys see me train leg presses or um, stuff like that, hack squats, all those things. I don't necessarily go when I'm going down at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up like certain people on Instagram say you got to have a certain you know depth of the negative, you got to have a certain duration of the negative, blah blah blah. You're pushing too much weight, but the way I train is, and I'm specifically talking about training legs, is I train like I train in football. We're trying to move weight. We're trying to do as much as we can with the best form as we can, with as much intensity as we can. It's a different mindset when I train legs as opposed to when I train arms, right?
Yeah.
And the reason is because you're moving so much weight and you're hitting your CNS so hard. So I train with intensity specifically on leg days more than others. But then like as we're getting ready for shows, like if I'm doing a prep, I try to maintain that intensity as long as I can throughout that process. So I know some guys, hey, last couple of weeks of before the show, I'm gonna kind of pull back on it a little bit. I do pull back, but when I say pull back, I'm taking like one or two sets off of those workouts. I'm not gonna not train with intensity. I'm gonna still try to train as hard as I can up until that Wednesday, Thursday for the show. Take a couple sets off of everything I do, but I never was of the mindset of, hey, let's take the foot off the gas a little bit before the show. I always wanted to train and keep doing what I was doing because it was working, right? So I train with intensity. I'm sure there's people on Instagram that'll say, well, he does half reps or he doesn't, train with optimal movements and blah blah blah. Well, I'm gonna train the way that I saw my role models growing up, Ronnie, Jay, Kevin Levrone, guys like that. I would rather train like they did, which was it always perfect form? No. Was it always full reps? No. Was it the way that some of these guys on Instagram train now, where it's like I'm gonna do everything with cables and I'm gonna do everything like with perfect form and stuff? Do you see what these guys look like? I don't want to look like that. I want to look like that, like Kevin and those guys did. So I train like they did. Really, I train still kind of like I did when I played football, and then also I train with intensity like those guys in the 2000s, the 90s, because I wanted to be like that, right? So I train like that.
What you see with these guys on Instagram that are training, like you're saying, though, the thing they don't understand, they're copying someone, say, like Nick Walker. If you listen to Nick Walker, he says, I did not get this big training the way I'm training now. I trained with heavyweight. I trained hard. I trained, with intensity. And now he's a freaking mass monster. He's trying to optimize his physique. He's trying to add detail. He's not trying to build massive. He already has massive legs. There's a difference. And I think that people need to realize that you do have to adapt your training style. If you're like trying to put on maximum muscle, you got to put some freaking weight on the bar.
Yeah, like that's exactly it, Joe. Like these guys on Instagram who are talking about training optimally and all
Mhm.
this stuff, you see what they look like. And I'm like, am I going to take advice from you or am I going to take advice from somebody who looks at how I want to look or who has looked how I
T-Bum
want
used to squat 6 plates every
to? Yeah.
single week. He used to talk about that. That's how you build your foundation, and then you finesse from there.
That's the key. I think what you
Yeah.
just said is the foundation.
Hmm.
You know, people want to, I don't want to generalize, but it is hard to get there and
Yes.
it's a lot easier to maintain it.
Hmm.
And so for all of us who are trying to get there, you have to have that foundation set first. And in this realm, we're talking about muscle. And if you want to build that base, it's often starts with those heavy compound movements.
Hmm.
And I don't, I would even argue that the intensity part is misunderstood. The intensity doesn't actually ever go away.
No, never.
We should always be training with a pretty high degree of intensity. Arguably, there are points in times where that needs to diminish a little bit. If you're injured, right? You can't go full 100% max effort and recover from an injury, obviously. So there are going to be times where you got to dial that back. There's some auto regulation that maybe needs to occur, whatever, fine. But the intensity should always be there. And how you go about it may look a little different. But people are trying to skip that part. And it's like you can't. And when you try to, we all can see it. We can tell. We look at somebody like, oh, this guy probably doesn't train that hard.
I
Um,
don't think people realize what intensity really is either. Like,
yeah.
do people really understand what true failure is? I think that that's something that you develop over time and maybe with exposure to people pushing you
Yeah,
to true failure. I'm starting a deload week this week because I was talking to my coach. My joints are a little achy. I haven't done a deload week in maybe 2 years.
yeah,
So I trained today, 1 to 2 reps short of failure and no intensifiers.
yeah.
I got out of the gym. I was like, I don't feel like I did anything. This is weird. Like, and I feel like I was still training harder than 80% of the people I see at the gym.
Yeah.
But it was a little weird to train so light today. I should.
Yeah. Uh, that was something else I messaged Chris about. Like, man, that's my struggle with training is
Mm-hmm.
I can be wobbling out of the gym after legs and I get in the truck and I'm thinking to myself, could I have gone further? Was there more left to
100%.
do?
That mental aspect, man, like your brain is going to limit you before your body does, and it's a struggle. You
Yeah.
never get good at it, I guess. You just have to keep, trying to fight your brain and telling you, nope, I can do more than you're telling me I can do.
That's why every time I got my logbook,
Yep.
if I'm beating my numbers from last week, I don't have to question it. I know I
I'm
did better.
neurotic with my logbook as
I did
well.
better than last week, so I'm already winning. I don't
Exactly.
have to. Did I go hard enough? Well, I already did because I can see my numbers.
I
So
take a peek back at what I did last week and I say, all right, I got 12 reps on this last week. All right, I'm going to up the weight because I got over 12.
So,
And I better get at least 10 of this higher weight this week.
well, let's talk about that because I do the same thing.
Mhm.
I have log books, gone through some.
Yep.
The How are you guys measuring that progress? Is it only weight added, or are you looking at it in terms of any other metrics? Like, okay, I did the same weight, but I got more reps, or I did the same weight, but I felt it more because I changed something in regard to the movement or how you were doing it.
So I try to look at everything. Obviously, the weight is the easiest thing to look at. The next thing would be maybe the reps. But
Yeah,
like with my intensifiers, I might try to look at like the total work. Say I don't know, any kind of marginal improvement. Say I did 12 reps with a double rest pause where each rest pause was 5 reps each. So I did 22 total reps. This next week I got 12 reps only, but then I got 6 and 6 on the rest pause. I'm like, okay, I did a little bit better. I tried the one constant variable I try to keep is my form
yeah,
because you can cheat. That's the one thing I find with the logbooks. You can get so focused on making improvements that you sacrifice form.
yeah,
So as long as you don't get in your head that that you're gonna change your form and kind of like cheat your way to make progress, I think it's a great tool. But I look at everything. I look at any kind of marginal improvement that I can get. I even count half reps. So like I'll usually when I fail, I'll try to do one more and then I say I got 12 and then I got another like partial, that's 12 and a half. So
yeah.
now I know like I almost got 13.
I have a little note section in mine. I'll put an
Yeah.
asterisk.
Yep.
mm,
Like,
I make notes with any weird
yeah.
little variables. Yep.
Is that similar? Is that what you do, Cleef, or you do anything different?
the logbook. No, I always try to go up in weight. In the gym that I've been to right now, currently in Kings and Queens, I try to max out whatever exercise I'm doing for the moment, which I have. Like any plate loaded machine or stuff like that, or machine itself, I could barely max, but it's not just maxing saying, oh, I can do it for 1, 2 reps. I'm doing it for 12 plus.
Yeah,
That's when I'm like, all right, I'm done with this machine. What's next? I'm done with the incline hammer press. So now I know the most difficult incline machine there would be the Smith. How far can I get there until I max out? I can do 4 or 5 for 12. All right, let's see. Can I get to 455 for 12 by next month? If I can, that's a great improvement. I don't know if you see my last Instagram post or the second to last one. I did the 150s for 23 reps. Now, the most I ever did was 20. Now I did for 23. I see now 150-pound dumbbells currently right now is the most we have in the gym. So every time on incline dumbbell press, that's what I have to do. There's no more weight. So what do? Now I just have to go up in reps. So now my next goal, can I do more than 23 reps until they give me 160s or 170s?
You
yeah.
gotta make it up to our gym, man. We got 220s.
Yeah, oh sheesh. See, that's I'm trying to get up there.
There we
But
go.
that's
You'll be the only one to ever press them if you get
yeah.
them.
I don't even try to pick up those anymore. Like we got 200s, and I'm like, I'm not.
Yeah,
Why? No,
I
no.
mean,
no.
the hardest part is the kick up for me. The
Yeah,
pressing is fine, but just to get it up, oh man,
Yeah.
that's
that's the hardest
terrifying,
part.
man.
Yeah.
That's scary.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Your whole rotator cuff is just all twisting or try to get that heavy dumbbell up with one arm.
Yeah,
Yep.
It's hard.
that's
Hmm.
when you're like, hey, I need some strong friends. Can y'all just
Yeah.
hand them to me
Just
up
hold
here?
it. Exactly. Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But also to touch the to touch on the intensifiers, I can't do it because I would lose weight like that. I almost have to lift like a powerlifter, even though as we talk, I'm thinking about it now. I started off as a powerlifter. I was powerlifting from probably 19 to 23. I did 3 shows, almost had the strict curled arm record. I was like 12 pounds away from that, but I believe I have to lift heavy and take longer rest so I don't sweat much or I don't burn enough calories as I'm working out. Or I'm drinking a protein shake as I work out. Like I really have a fast metabolism, so
That's
I'm in
crazy.
that gym.
You
Yeah.
can drink a protein drink during the workout. I
Oh
just
yeah.
mess with you.
Definitely. Nah, I'm sitting there
Oh,
sipping while I work out. After I drink my EAAs, after I drink I drink my cyclodextrin,
yeah.
liquid carbs to
So
keep
you're
me
having a
fucking
whole
full.
meal while you're training, man.
Exactly. And it's like, oh my God. So that's why. But when I'm in prep, then I'll start doing them for the condition and the striations, get the muscles out there. I'll do supersets and drop sets, this and that. But while I'm in off season, no, I stick to the straight sets. Try to get the weight up.
So I'm a superset like every time, but I do it for the sake of efficiency. So I only superset antagonizing muscle groups. Like so if I'm, for example, if I'm doing a tricep movement, I might superset it with a bicep movement or a curl, right? I don't superset the same protagonist. So if I'm doing push downs, I don't superset overhead or nose breakers or something, right?
Yeah.
It's always opposing. But I do that just because I, I I don't want to be in the gym for 2 3 hours.
Mm.
It's,
Hmm.
um,
Well, I
but
want to touch on that too.
uh-oh,
The timing as the more we train, or like I said, because we train for so long and our numbers are high, we need a longer warm up. So
yeah,
now, of course, that's going to push our time back. So when I hear somebody say an hour is enough, I'm like, oh, not for me. There's no way. I can't do a session in 1 hour. If not, if I'm stretching and I'm properly just warming up.
yeah,
Warming up alone could be 20, 25 minutes.
that's true.
40, so for me, at least 2 hours. I have to be for myself to train. And no matter what body part, legs is probably gonna be more. But just saying, just for the warm up and getting my mind right, lifting heavy weight, I need a longer rest period. So that's for me.
That's no, that's a good point. If I when I factor in the warm up time, but I also do it similar to Joe though, it sounds like. So my first when I'm cold and I'm getting there and I'm doing my first set and I'm warming up for that first movement, that's the longest warm up period I have. So
Hmm.
I'll do other ancillary things like some mobility work to warm up, but in terms of the actual movement and exercise itself, that first movement might have more warm up sets. It will have more warm up sets than when I start moving on because at that point the joint is already warmed up or the joints. Um, all of that connective tissue associated with what I'm doing for a row is warmed up. I may be changing the movement. It's a different row now, right? I did a high row. Okay, well now I'm doing a vertical row, or I'm doing um, some other type of back row movement. I don't need to warm that up as much as I did when I started because I'm not cold anymore.
Yep.
So that being said, yeah, it probably takes me about 15 or 20 minutes for to actually be warmed up before I'm doing my first working set. Um, yeah, and I guess you know what? Now that I think about it, I don't see as many people doing that. At least non-competitors at my gym. Um, I don't see kids like, doing much. They just jump on it and they just rip it. I'm like,
Their
man,
tendons and ligaments are fresh still. They can
yeah,
move
I'm like,
around
was
much.
I able to do that at that age? Oh, and I see it and it hurts.
Mhm.
Just
Um,
walk in the gym. Go ahead, put 4 or 5 on. I'll do it right. Like what? Whoa, no warm up. What? I don't know. Mm-mm.
you still do flat pressing, barbell?
I've as just recently got back into my program,
Okay.
so I do it now. But I only do it, I believe, just on Fridays, one day, one time a week,
Yeah.
just to, I guess, just to fill it out. But yeah, mostly I just touch the incline,
Okay.
get that nice shelf up there.
Yeah.
But as I told, well, I believe Joe and James, y'all should know that the way I train, I do my chest and shoulders. I train together. My push day. I have a push day, pull day, leg day, then an upper body day, then leg day, just so that my legs can catch up. I don't want to do the same amount of sets and reps in the upper body as my lower body because then they'll never catch up. So I train my legs more than my upper.
That takes us into that's a it was like you were setting this up. Like he just gave me an alley-oop. All right. Volume. How are you guys breaking up volume? For me, it's like it depends. I look at I look at it based on how am I going to allocate my volume relative to what is my goal. So oftentimes you can see it and but you can use the judge's feedback toward that end as well. That's for me. I'm like, okay, I need more back or I need more legs. Well, I look at the volume I'm going to allocate towards those muscle groups and then how much time or how much I like John Jewett's philosophy. The way he kind of teaches this in J3U is you have a recovery bank account and you only have so much you can spend. And so I look at it in terms of, all right, I need this much more of this body part, and I have this much in my recovery bank account. How am I going to spend this to get the most out of that? And I can't just maximize volume across everything because you don't have enough in the bank. You don't have enough recovery in the bank. So, like for right now, what that translates to in practical terms is I'm doing chest one day a week, but legs are getting hit twice a week. Uh, back's getting hit twice a week. Biceps are only getting hit once a week, right? So I trim the volume down on certain muscle groups and raise it up on others that need it more because like you can't raise it up everything the same. You won't be able to recover and grow.
Got to
So,
prioritize
yeah,
the
exactly.
weak points.
Yep. Is that similar to how you guys do it, or you change, or is it something? And before I ask that question, caveat that with I understand there are exceptions to the rule. Ronnie Coleman doesn't count, right? Those genetic freaks don't count. Um, and uh, and interestingly enough, there's exceptions where you're gonna see this was my case. I was only hitting quads. I've only been hitting quads once a week, and yet they grew more. So sometimes, and why that is, my speculation is when I was hitting them before, it was too much to recover from. And so now that they got more time to recover, they're growing. Because as everybody knows in this group, you don't grow from training, you grow from what comes after training, right? Sleep, the eating, the recovery is all around that part. So all that said, is that similar to how you guys are approaching it?
Well, I'll say this: Cleef and I worked out together the peak week in New York, and he wore my ass out. He, he had a good volume program that day. I was wore out, man. So,
A lot
no,
of
I
reps,
think
a lot of
so.
20 reps, a lot of reps of 20.
Yeah, no, I think for volume, I train pretty high volume, especially in prep. Um, and in the off season, I try to keep it similar because when you're going higher with food, especially, you want that food to be doing something,
Yeah.
right? So the volume's a little bit higher for me, probably more so than some folk. But you know, you guys were talking about like how many days a week you're training which body part and whatnot, but how many reps, how many sets of each are you doing, right? Because some people only go 3 or 4 for exercise. I sometimes do 5. It depends on what it is. And just like you guys are saying, it depends on is that a priority muscle group? Then yeah, I'm gonna hit it more. right? So it depends on, the feedback you get from the judges and like what you need to prioritize. But for those things that I do need to prioritize, I'm hitting more volume.
So good, very good question, in my opinion. What is volume? Because that's how I tend to look at it is across, let's say, whatever this training period is, if it's across your training split, if I'm looking at it, we'll make it simple. Across these 7 days, how many sets total am I doing for X muscle group? So if I'm hitting quads at 20 sets a week, and I'm just throwing out random numbers. Back is getting across the week, 30 sets. That's how I'm looking at how much volume I'm actually doing. And those sets that's only counting working sets, not warm-ups. But because I don't think the warm-ups really accrue any measurable stress or fatigue. So that's kind of how I look at it in terms of volume. And then there's frequency, which is a different thing, right? Frequency being, what's the rate at which I'm hitting this stuff over and over. So and that to me is measurable by sleeps. So if I'm hitting quads on Monday and then I hit legs again that week, what is that frequency going to look like? Well, it's based on recovery. So if it takes me based on the level of intensity that I'm applying, 3 sleeps to recover before I can hit them again, well, that's going to impact my frequency. And it may it plays into I decide to change the volume because I feel like I need to recover faster or I don't know. It just depends. So by volume though, that's what I'm looking at. And for me, things tend to in terms of frequency, well, no, that's not true. I try to keep things as static in terms of my programming as I can and only change when the need arises. All right, this is what I'm doing. It's working, not touching it. If it's not broke, not going to fix it. And then when the time comes, it's like, okay, this worked, but now the objective's changed. This isn't going to work towards this end anymore. I got to change it. Then that's what I do. But I also lean heavily on my coach because as my shirt says, I trust him like wholly. So if he recommends something, I'm like, I know you're recommending this, but I'm just gonna take it as an order, sir, and that's what we're gonna do. So yeah, that's what I mean by volume, though. That long-winded answer.
Yeah, I second that. It's about how much reps and sets at the end of the week that's done
Yeah,
compared to the rest of my body parts. That's what I would compare. I would compare my legs to my back or any upper body actually. I'll just make sure I have more volume in my legs than I am in my upper body for the week.
yeah. And you asked about rep ranges, James. For me, I on paper, I try to keep it around 10 to 15 in practice. When I'm trying to progress, if I hit 15 reps of something and the form and the mind muscle connection is spot on, everything is perfect, uh, it's time to move up, right? It's time to add some more weight. Because I can no longer make that load any more difficult in terms of my my body my body's perception of it, what I'm experiencing in terms of the difficulty for the muscle to move the weight. I can't make it any harder. I've done all the things I can. So for lack of a better word, mastered that rep range and that weight. Then I'll start adding more weight. And by doing so, I'm probably going to be at a lower rep range now. And then I'll work my way back up to that 10 to 15 mark. And it's essentially just progressive overload, right? That's generally what that looks like. Uh, I legs is always different for me. Weird. Like I don't treat legs necessarily exactly the same as I do upper body. If I'm doing walking lunges, I'm not counting.
The failure.
I'm going until I can't. I have to stop. Um, Part of that recently, so I had a left knee issue. what I think was a little bit of chondromalacia going on. That is completely resolved, and so the training is intensified quite a bit. But some of those things will shape that. But by and large, that's what I'm typically keeping it around because from what I've seen and what I've read and what I've experienced, that rep range is pretty reliable in terms of generating the stimulus I need for muscle hypertrophy. That's not to say 30 ain't gonna do it, because I think that's also demonstrated to be effective. Um, Hell, Terrence Ruffin, I know will do 6 reps. And so I think somewhere in there, 6 to 30, you can still grow. I think it has more to do with those other things we already talked about, though. Um, are you feeling it? Are you getting the intensity in that is required? If you're pussyfooting through 30 reps, it doesn't matter if you're doing 30, 10, 6. If you're not recruiting muscle fibers, you're not going to grow.
Yeah, I kind of shy a little bit more towards the lower end of that rep range. Some of my stuff might be 6 reps for a heavy compound, but I also, because I do the intensifiers, my 2 working sets are always a double rest pause or a double or tripled drop set. So am I counting the reps on those subsequent intensifiers? I might get 8 reps on incline press, but then do a double rest pause where I get 4 and 3. And then I might drop it down to 135 and pump out 12 to just force some blood into the muscle. So is that really a 25 rep set or a 30
Yeah,
rep set? Um,
that's a good point.
yeah. So I think there's just so many different ways to do it. My philosophy is with frequency, you should be doing it as frequently as you can as far as you're recovering. If you're making progress week over week, maybe try to shorten the frequency until you find that wall and then back off a day.
Yeah,
And then with volume, I by the end of my workout, I usually am struggling to find a good contraction, and my pump is pretty much gone. And then I know I'm done. I can still go through the movements, but now I feel like I felt like when I was 18 and I was training, I didn't know how to squeeze my muscle.
yeah,
And then it's like, okay, I guess you did enough work
yeah,
for the day.
yeah. I like that.
Yeah. Try to keep it kind of simple, but there's so many different ways to do it. Like Cleef does the pyramids. I trained the pyramids with him on back. That was completely shocking to my body because I don't train that way anymore. And like doing 4 sets to failure was like, oh my God, like that was hard for me because I'm usually just my mind is focused on, okay, you got to kill this twice, and then you move on to the next exercise. So,
Yeah,
but it all does the same thing. You're pushing the muscle to a point where it's uncomfortable and it's forced to adapt so that it can do it next time better.
agreed. Yeah, that's it. If anybody sees this and they're trying to figure out, well, how should I train? That's the answer. That's the
Find
answer.
a way that works that you enjoy too, because
Yes.
you're coming into the gym and you don't want to do this workout because you don't like the way your workout is structured, or you don't want to do a ton of volume because you don't like it, then maybe find a different way to do it. All the good pros have done it in different ways.
Yeah,
And I think having a workout that you truly are able to mentally push on because you enjoy it is going to far outweigh some other strategy because you heard it works better.
exactly. Exactly. And that's what dude, from a coaching standpoint, I had a guy he was that guy. He was like, I want to do it this way. And
Hmm.
in my head, I'm like, but that's not been working for you. But I also know that if I tell you to only do it this way or to change it to something you don't like, your ass ain't gonna go in there and put the work in.
Hmm.
So you have to find that compromise. If it's I want to be a bodybuilder and I want to grow muscle tissue, but I love training like a strong man, we got to find a happy medium, right?
Right.
So because I need you to be able to want to go in there and to want to do the work. So yeah, the only other thing I would say in terms of volume, there is, from what I've seen, uh, there is a grace for the beginner. You
Hmm.
could do pretty much anything.
Any stimulus is going to give you some gains.
Yeah. So, there's a difference between the beginner and the advanced dude, and even the intermediate guy. Uh, but the beginner gets a lot more grace. They can just get away with pretty much anything.
I mean, I
Uh,
still see beginner gains every once in a while. Say I move to a new movement or a new machine,
yeah,
and that initial progress week over week, it's like, man, I like am doing double the weight 3 weeks later, and then it's like I'm only doing 10% more of the weight 6 weeks after that.
yeah,
But that's beginner gains. Your body is being trained to move in a certain pattern, and once it gets used to it, those gains diminish a little bit. But
yeah. That's when it gets sad. That's when you're like, man,
yep, yep.
um, you you guys do more. I guess it sounds like it's probably a similarity between all of us in this free weights versus machines. That was something you had mentioned, Joe, that I was like, oh, dude,
Yeah.
I don't think about it anymore. I'm just going in there and doing my thing.
Hmm.
Um, what does that look like for you guys? James, you train at Fancy New Tech, so I don't even know. Do
Do
they
they
do they
even have
have
free
free
weights
weights
there?
there?
Do they even have free weights anymore? No, they do. It depends. For me, guys, it depends on what I'm doing. So, for example, like if I have an arm day, I'm training majority of that free weight. Like I'll do cables and stuff and whatnot, but I like free weights for arms. And then, you know, honestly, I train with less free weights than I used to. Being getting older now and having to admit that, right? The joints, you got to take care of your joints at this age. And I feel like the old guy now talking, but like, there's some days where my elbows are shot. There's some days where my shoulders are just like sore as hell. And I'm not talking about like a muscle sore. I'm talking about like a AC joint rotator cuff, whatever you want to call it. So, I have not been training with as much free weights as I used to. I think that equipment and technology has evolved to where, some of this equipment, like you mentioned, new tech, it's a lot easier on your joints. It's a lot easier on your ligaments and all those things that we're exposed to injuring. But you still get the same stimulation to a certain degree. You're never going to get the same amount of stimulation as free weights, right? With a machine, I don't think, but you can get a pretty good different type of stimulation that's similar. So if I had to put it in a percentage wise right now, I would say I'm probably 60-40 machines to free weights.
Say I'm about the same. Outside of legs, I pretty much use exclusively machines because
Yeah, I
I've
agree.
never connected with a barbell squat or even a Smith squat. I feel like I got long femurs, and to squat and really target my quads, I can't do it. I have to use a wide stance with my toes pointed out, and then I'm just squatting like a power lifter. So I've just found connecting with quads is much easier with a hack squat.
Is that the same for you, Cleef?
I'm I mix both. I think free weights is king all the way. So typically I do work out with more hammer strength machines now because I believe those have an end goal. Every machine or a plate loader machine has an end goal saying that you can only put 5 plates and that's it. On a machine, it goes up to 250 and that's it. So once you can reach there, where else do you go? It's only free weights because free weights it's unlimited. You gotta get a longer bar maybe to put more weights on, but free weights I believe is more unlimited than these machines. So I do the machines, but once I max them out, it's gonna lead me back to the free weight.
Okay. So there's two big things because Joe mentioned you mentioned levers. Yeah, when you said limb length, femur
Yep.
length, we're gonna come back to that one because all of us are tall and arguably too tall for some of the equipment. We got this pullover machine. I missed the Nautilus one that I had, but they got this pullover machine at the gym I go to, and I'm like, this ain't gonna work. This ain't
No.
gonna work. I can adjust it, however, it's just not the same. Um, but
See, but from there you'll go over to the dumbbell pullover or the easy curl bar
yep,
pullover.
bam, exactly. That's what I have to do. That's exactly what I have to do. So, which is funny because then I got to admit, like back in the day, my dad was right. Oh, he used to always make us take the dumbbell, get on the bench, and I'm like, can't I just grab the cable bar and like So the for me in terms of free weights, I guess, dang, I agree with you, Joe, for legs for sure. I'm using leg press, hip press,
Yep.
hack squat, um, leg extension. Obviously, all the hamstrings work is almost. I'm not doing that much stiff-legged deadlift right now. I just don't tend to feel it enough. I can do it with dumbbells and feel it a lot more. I can drive my hips back further and it
Yep.
feels better. But
I do
at the end of the day,
dumbbells
I feel like I
for
can
those.
get more bang for the buck on a seated leg curl, a lying leg curl, and a standing leg curl.
Mhm.
Um, so I spend so much time trying to focus on that connection with the stiff-legged deadlift that it's like, I'm worried about if I put too much weight on here, yeah, I can move it, but am I feeling it where I need to? Or am I turning this into a back movement?
Correct.
Otherwise, I I still dabble in heavy dumbbell pressing, incline and flat, because sometimes I just the little boy in me comes out. Like, hey, those 160s over there. Let's see if we can still get
Yeah.
12 out. You know what I'm saying? It's like, let me go just try. And it's like, do I need to do this? Is it in the plan? Well, I gotta do some pressing. And then on the other hand, I love flies, man, because my arms, we have long arms.
Yeah.
So I get a whole lot more out of a fly than somebody who's, probably got shorter levers. These,
You're
somebody
saying
fly,
you're saying with the dumbbell flies or
all any fly.
pec deck,
Yeah.
dumbbell fly don't matter.
Pec deck, cable flies, dumbbell flies. If I'm doing dumbbell flies, it's usually incline. I don't usually do them for flat just because I probably already did cable flies or pec deck. And so I want to change the angle up. But yeah, I love flies. I've only recently pulled them back a little bit, so I'm doing more pressing because we also got some new equipment in, and I'm like, oh, this feels like they got some Jim Leco stuff. They brought in an old Cybex machine. I'm like, yeah, playground just got bigger. So I think it's about the same for me. Maybe it's 50-50. It just depends on what it is. I
And what we could
love,
fit in too. Some
yeah.
machines can't fit in. Some machines are like, no, I'm too big for this.
Yep.
Yeah,
Get
we
it
got one of
first.
those. We got I don't know if it was a Nautilus piece. I can't remember what it is. It's a flat machine, plate loaded machine, chest press, and you can
Yeah.
adjust the angles. I'm like, there ain't no way. I got to have somebody lift it up so I can get up
Hmm.
underneath it.
I
So
used
I'm
to have
like,
to put
yeah,
yoga blocks or
yeah,
wear a thing just to give me an extra
yep,
range of motion to get my
exactly.
finger in there. Yeah.
I'm like, I ain't got time for this, man. Like, so, but back to your point, Joe. When I was mentioning earlier, you said limb length. And that goes back into that, anthropometry. I'm never going to say it right. I always say it wrong. Anthropometric kind of stuff where, you know, for us as taller guys, we have longer limb lengths, and those limbs are levers, right? So, what does that translate into in terms of how I do a squat, a back squat, versus how a shorter person does a back squat? It's going to look different. If it doesn't look different, I'm probably going to feel it differently. If I try to match the same exact positioning and angles as the shorter guy when I do a squat with my frame and my limb lengths and all this, assuming range of motion and everything else, well, you can't even assume that our range of motion is going to be greater. But assuming mobility is equal, it just isn't going to look the same. Um, that's how I understand it anyway. I could be dead wrong. There could be some kinesiologist out there like he doesn't know what he's talking about, and maybe I don't. But this is what I remember learning. Because we have these longer limbs, we have longer levers, and therefore it's going to require more force to lift the same load as someone shorter.
Yep.
And on top of that, um, be, this is probably obvious, but it's going to require greater mechanical force. And I want to minimize that mechanical force as much as I can on my joints and have it more on the muscle. right? That's where I want that locomotion to be driven by the muscles. That's what they're there for. I don't want to be putting all that load on the joints to try to take all that and move the weight. And you know, am I picking on the back squat? Yes. Because that's usually the one that tall guys, talk about in terms of this. Um, so I used to back squat every leg day.
Same.
Uh,
Up until like 2023, I did. And I finally gave it up and my legs blew up.
yeah. The only difference, the only argument I would make, and I don't do this now because I just don't want to jack my knees up, is I really liked what Phil Viz kind of created, if you will, with the wedge squat,
Yep.
where he would put the entire foot on the platform, and therefore you're increasing the knee flexion substantially.
And you're
And that
shorting your
back squat,
effective femur
yeah,
length, which for
yep,
me helps me keep my back upright, and then you can kind of engage your quads better.
exactly. And did you actually do them?
I have done them before, and I
Yeah,
needed such a high wedge. It was
yeah.
just like, yeah.
Fortunately, when I was at DMV Iron, they had multiple wedges and they had some
Oh, that's nice.
crazy high ones.
Yeah,
And I did them, and I'm like, oh wow, he is not kidding. This really, my quads were. It
burns.
felt like my quads were doing all the work.
Yep.
I felt it nowhere else. And the only problem is I was like, well, my knees aren't going to be able to handle this 2 times a week.
Right.
And you really got to be careful about loading that thing. And he said that. Phil said that. He's like, listen, don't do what I did and put 6 plates on there and do wedge squats.
Yep.
You need to be looking at a plate, maybe 2 plates, maybe work your way up to three eventually. But even then, the amount of stress on the knee joint is way more because of all that knee flexion. Um,
Kind of like the Tom Platz squats. Like
oh yeah,
he would do those with a plate. And I think that if you watched his whole workout, he was doing some heavy weight before that, pre-exhausting, and then moving to those crazy knee flexion, whatever you want to call them, sissy squat things that he would do on the hack squat.
Oh, I actually just did those in my last video.
I did
Right.
too. They
I
burned
just
the hell out
now
of
I know what
my
you're
legs.
talking about.
Yep.
Yeah, start off with a plate. Feels good. I mean,
Yep.
take some time. Don't want to hurt my knees, so
Yep.
you're gonna get there. Build these quads.
I need to build everything. Uh,
Yeah.
I need a
Yeah.
back like
That's
no
an
like dude.
action figure.
It must suck to be
Action figure
200
down.
pounds. Just need a little more size.
I need I need a back so bad that I'll be watching videos like on Instagram and some you know women's physique shows up and I'm like, damn, her back's better than mine. I'm like,
Yeah.
this is terrible. So
You gotta get very oh, for universe. I could pull up a picture for my back. My back looked crazy. For the whole month of universe was July. So the
yeah.
whole month of May, I did 200 pull-ups every single day for the
Oh,
30
Oh my
days.
shit.
God.
6,000 pull-ups for the month. My back looked crazy because I was working construction.
Yeah.
So I was bored and they had the whole bars outside. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna do 100 pull-ups before breakfast, eat, do
Oh
100
man.
pull-ups on my lunch break. And like, I'm talking about this was every day. And my back blew up ridiculously.
Do you have a crazy good connection with your lats though when you're doing a pull up? Do you feel it in your lats? Not really like
Yes.
your
hmm
biceps?
No, I do.
Yeah.
No more
Okay.
bicep. I don't grip I just grip my bar with the 4 fingers and put it
My
like
arms
that
want to take over and it takes everything in my mental like capacity to focus on using my lats on back,
on
which is
pull-ups.
something I
Oh, on
believe
back
on
itself.
anything really, on any back movement, which is why my upper back is so much more dominant. I'm very good at using my traps and my rhomboids, but actually engaging the lats has been a challenge, which I'm still kind of trying to get better at, but
So recently I went to Arizona. I did a video with Mr. Classic Physique, Robert Timms.
yep.
And I've been doing lat pull downs my whole life. I just met
Engaged, yep.
him. Well, I just did a video with him like 2 months ago, and I never knew this about lat pull downs on how it's supposed to you want to bring your elbows to
Elbows
your hips.
forward. Yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
forward. So you're not leaning back, you're sitting straight, like
You're
Yeah.
no
pulling it
feedback
more
at
to like,
all.
you're not
Yeah,
pulling it to your chin, you're pulling it down to your sternum, a little bit
yeah,
farther forward.
exactly. Like
Yeah.
that right there changed my lat.
Yep.
activation so much. And it was just that little movement. And I just learned to do this year or a couple months
Yep.
ago. So and my
Mhm.
back, I believe, is good. And I've been doing it, I guess, the wrong way. I guess I don't know, but it's been working for me.
Yeah.
But now that I learned this way, my back is probably going to blow up even more.
Yep.
So probably want to just change the angle on your elbow. Probably will help you.
Yes. Yep.
That's that's the thing, and this is we talked about this in the last episode about how do you know all the stuff that you know and experience and people learning from other people and all that stuff, and eventually it all comes together to what you just pointed out. You're like, I made all this progress, but when there's not to get all it's Sunday. You know what? I'm gonna give you all a Bible verse.
Yes, yes.
There's a way that seems right to a man, but a wise man listens to advice. I will listen to what anybody's got to say. I do not care. I'll take it. I'll use some discernment and figure it out. Like, okay, this part maybe doesn't apply, and I'll take the rest of my cups that have been filled up by everybody else, and I'll look and I'll pour it in there. I'm like, oh, this doesn't mix. This is out, but this stays. That point about pulling doing a pull down with the elbows forward of the body, um, marries up to what I had learned in school, however many years ago, but never thought about applying until my coach told me to do this. And it's like, well, duh, I knew this. I knew this, but I didn't know it, right?
Hmm.
Because all you're talking about is going from, instead of focusing on scapular retraction and protraction, we're talking about scapular depression, right? And it's like, okay, that don't make sense to somebody who didn't go to school for any of this. But when you say, hey man, I want you to put your elbows forward and pull down here, and yeah, maybe lean back a little, but I don't want to see any of this. You need to be keeping as upright as you can and coming down and activating your lats. And you're sitting here like, yeah, but it's called a lat pull down. I've been doing that. No,
Yeah.
no, it ain't the same.
Mm.
It ain't the same. And that was one of the changes I had to make too. I also switched though. You ever done them with a close grip like Y bar?
Yep.
That
I do
makes it
those as
so much
well.
easier. I can
Yes.
feel it every single rep, but I definitely can't use the weight, the same weight.
No, no, not if you're doing them right. You can't.
Yeah,
Um, CJ taught
yeah,
me a good cue on those too, and he was like, and he does it with a lot of exercises I found. He's like, pretend you're getting into your front lat spread. You want your shoulders down, you want your chest up, and you want to flare those lats out, and like a lot of the things he's been teaching me, it's been funny, has been like it relates to posing. He's like, it's the same shit I'm telling you to do when you're posing. You got like when you're doing these movements, think about hitting that pose because
yeah,
that's the position you want your shoulders, your scapulas, your chest in to properly contract that muscle.
yeah. It's so crazy to think
Yeah,
you've been training all these years. You thought you kind of knew something, and you're like,
yeah.
oh shoot,
It's like, oh
oh
wow, I
whoops.
actually got a lat pump now.
Yeah.
This is cool.
What have you guys kind of taken away or learned since starting competition?
You better understand what the standard is. That's the thing for me is, we started out doing this thing and it was like, okay, we're going to be in the NPC, right? We're going to compete in the NPC. Goal is to do well, go to national shows, um, possibly get a pro card, then compete in the pros, and it's completely different levels and levels of standard. And when you get to the pro league, the standard has been completely raised and it's like you're no longer, a big fish in a small pond. You're a guppy in the ocean. You're trying to become that shark, or you're swimming with the sharks, right? And it's you got to understand the standard of what you're trying to do. And right, the four of us, we're all classic pros. We understand that we could be seeing each other on stage, right? So, I know that you guys are incredibly gifted genetically, and you guys have great physiques in your own right. Everybody in the pro league in their own right got a great physique. Everybody's a champion. Everybody has won something. So now if you're going to be continuing to compete in the pro league, you better understand that there's a lot that comes with that. And you have to train to that standard, and you have to eat and supplement yourself and all of those things to that standard. Because if you don't, you're going to pay the price at some point, whether that's on stage, whether that's, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're going to show up to a show and you're going to go, oh shit. Like, you're going to, you know what I mean? You're going to, man, I wasn't ready for this. Or, you know, I didn't do what I was supposed to do, what I needed to do to be successful here. And you don't want that. I think everyone has probably felt that way at some point in their career, but you never want to feel that way again. So I think the biggest thing competitively that I would share with people is you have to understand the standard of what you're trying to do and what that is. Because if you want to be successful at something, you're going to have to do the things to meet that standard that a lot of people don't want to do, but a lot of people aren't pros.
Mhm. Yep. Yeah, I don't know if I could say it any better. I mean, it's really, yeah, understand the standard, understand what that means from a dietary standpoint, what that means from a social life standpoint, from a training standpoint, uh, everything. It's, you got to live the life. Like you might be able to succeed at a local level show based on your genetics and your potential, but you get up to that national level stage, you get up to that pro level stage. If you're not doing everything right, you're probably not gonna, it's gonna show.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you don't love it, then it's
Yeah.
gonna show because you're going against people who do love it, and you're going against 30, 40 other people 20 other people on stage. And
Mhm.
what is the only difference between you and them? Who loves it more? Who's more disciplined in this time that you had for this show? And what really changed for me was definitely social media now, because I love to just work out and go hard, eat, but now it's like I have to do that plus show the world what I'm doing. I was, I believe, I was an athlete also. I played football for college and everything. So me, I was never very cocky, but I was very confident because I know I put the work in. I know I'm nice. I'm not gonna say I'm not. I know I'm nice. So, but I was never a loud talker. I love to show up to games. I let my guys ride out the crowd. I'm in the back. I'm just waiting for my moment. So now I can't do that. I can't just show up to the show and be like, oh my God, who's this guy? No, now
Yeah,
it's like everybody's gonna know you because now you have to put up the photos. You
there's
have to do
something to be
social
said about
media.
that. Yeah,
Yeah, you
because
have to do this just to get
marketing
noticed
show.
and people can see you. If so that's the only different part for me from what I understood coming into the business of bodybuilding. But it's just you just gotta put yourself out there. There's no can't be the black horse. You can't just hide and just pop up to a show and be like, hey, this is
Yeah,
me. Like, no, they're gonna know who you already. They need to know your whole lifestyle, this and that, which is all right, but it's just a different thing for me.
yep.
It's changed.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm not very active on social media. I'm very bad at putting
Same.
up reels and like I'll put up a quick story and that's it. But like thinking about
Yeah.
putting up my tripod, which I don't even own, and bring to the gym and set up for an exercise, it just doesn't even cross my head. I don't know. I'm just too focused on the workout. But I know that if you do have a social media presence,
It
and
helps.
people know who you are, the judges are the judges. They're not going to be biased. They're not going to think about, oh, this person has 500,000 followers, but they're going to know who you are. They're going to know what to expect. They're going to already have this predetermined opinion of you. And it's good to have that. And getting FaceTime in with judges too, I guess. Like I'm very blessed to live close to Bev, so I can go down and get in front of Steve pretty much as often as I want. I don't do it as enough. I might go next weekend, actually, speaking of which, but you know, having the judges see you and be familiar with what you're doing throughout the season is definitely beneficial as well.
Yeah. I you said that and my mind went to work. Okay. I'm an intel officer in the military, so I'm like, yeah, man, you turn this into a whole psyop, you know?
Yeah.
That's what it starts to sound like.
Everybody
Like,
knows
Yep.
my plans, my this. Like, damn.
yeah, I'm gonna get on social media and I'm gonna put this stuff out there and
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make sure I talk to the right people. I'm gonna say these certain things, and because you're right. I agree with you, Joe. It's like the judges aren't sitting here looking at how many people are following you, what level of influence does this guy have. Sponsors might, but the judges don't give to. They don't care about that.
You know,
However, they're still human,
Hmm.
and they are going to immediately do the natural human thing of, I recognize, like, I know that, oh
Go
yeah,
back
Dom
down.
was just doing, they can't, it's just a natural part of the human experience. And so
Mhm.
you're right. That level of exposure doesn't always have to be on stage. It can't, right? You can't do 50 shows a year. So,
Yeah.
but you can post frequently and do the whole social media thing. But I guess, yeah, man, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's a
Quiet
good
now.
point
Somebody
that
they
I
gotta
didn't
know
know
who
about.
you are. If you
yeah,
want to if you want to make a name on the stage, you know. I mean, of course they're gonna go by your body and how you look. They're not gonna be biased in that way. But like you said, it does help if they at least know who you are.
Yep.
yeah. And in fact, that's I remember what Rich Palmer said when he was judging. He was judging us at Oklahoma. And he told me after, he's like, "Yeah, man, I saw you walk out. I was like, who the hell is this guy?" It's like, and it didn't dawn on me to think of it in terms of, oh, he didn't know who I was. I don't think it mattered that much, but it does speak to the point you guys are making. Some of these guys do see the judges more frequently. Some of these guys are working with them on other things, or I don't want to get into some of that stuff, but
Yeah.
they have a higher level exposure just because they've been doing it longer, right? They've competed in enough shows where they were judged by all of these judges many times over. And so it's a recognizable person, recognizable face. There's this kind of expectation before they even get out there. And
Yep.
that's huge.
I mean,
Um,
they're gonna reward you if they see that you improved, and the only
yeah,
way they can see that is if they really know you, because you know, understand they're doing a show, they're seeing thousands or hundreds of competitors. So
yeah,
if they can look at you, be like, oh, I remember him last year. Look at his legs. He looks
yeah,
way better than he did last year, or did, like he listened to my critique.
Yeah.
yes.
He went to work. He came back, and the judges love that. If they, if you're familiar with them, they'll know.
Dude, that's huge. Did he listen? Did he do what we told him to do?
Mhm.
That one, I know 99% level of certainty that is a thought that goes through their head. When they see you go from one show, they're like, yeah, you look good, but this is what I think you need to do. And they see you come back to the next show, whatever, however long away that might be, and they're like, he didn't bring this up.
Yeah, you're gonna go
And
worse. You was
Yeah.
seventh, now you're gonna be like 10th.
yeah, and we're like,
Like,
oh,
listen,
okay.
brother.
Yeah,
I'll help drive the point home.
a perfect example. Perfect example is that was Pittsburgh and New York, right? Pittsburgh, my feedback was you need to be sharper, you need to come in harder, right? And then do New York a week later, that whole peak week, busting my ass doing cardio, manipulating the diet and whatnot. Show up in New York and do three places better than I did at Pittsburgh the week before that, and it was
Virtually the
two, and
same
it was
lineup.
two of the same judges that were primary judges at New York were at Pittsburgh, and they saw the difference. And I actually talked to one of them after, and he's like, "You listened to what we said, so you
Yeah,
Yeah.
got rewarded."
Yeah.
Yep, there you go.
I would say, to close this out, because I don't want to hold you up, Joe. For me, the things that I thought of when you asked that, when I asked that question, was, as a competitor, there's kind of like three, now four things, because that social thing is a good point.
Mhm.
But there's the nutrition aspect of it, there's the prevention and slash health aspect of it, and then there's supplementation. As a competitor, I think it has to be driven home for a newbie or advanced. It doesn't matter. Your body is a system of systems. You're not doing one thing and only hitting one system. Everything is connected. So how I recover is going to impact how I perform. How I eat is going to impact how I perform, how I sleep, how I feel. Everything is touching something else. There's no isolating one and thinking, well, you know, it's like taking a medication and thinking, well, the side effects, it's only going to hurt my liver a little bit, so I'll just, not likely. No. Uh, you take something and there's too much happening. It's an orchestra inside. So that concert is happening and touching all these different systems. So I look at it like that. everything I do is interconnected. Um, so that's the reason why I agree with how we do postseason recovery. It's not about for me, we don't do this crazy hard rebound with, supplementation and some of the other things that happen. Instead, it's about recovery and health because a healthy body, a healthy overall system will perform more efficiently and effectively. So those are some of the things that I kind of got to live out and see and learn that I wouldn't have otherwise thought about prior to competing. Um, Nutrition, I think everybody will agree with this one. Uh, Whole food, wide variety, and needs based. The same thing goes with supplementation in terms of needs based. I'm a very firm believer in my, I want the lowest level of input for the greatest amount of desired outcome.
Yep.
So if I have to sit here, I've told guys this. I'm like, listen, if you got to throw the whole kitchen sink in to win a local show, this ain't for you. Something's
Right.
either very wrong or this just ain't for you. Because where are you going to go from there? Number one, but number two, it's a plastic trophy, right? Like, these things may affect you now, they may not, but they're going to affect you now or later. It's just a matter of when. So if you're gonna go through all those things, and yeah, we do a lot in terms of prevention to maintain our health, but you pay for it eventually somewhere.
It doesn't mean what you're doing isn't going to have risks.
Yes.
Right.
Now, every single thing you expose yourself to carries some degree of risk, um, whether it's very negligible or it's severe. And there are ways to mitigate that, but I don't believe that there are ways to completely eliminate all those risks. So when those are the things that I kind of like with supplementation, my two thoughts were always base it on deficiencies, right? So what do I need? And what is how would I say this? What is a constant like supplement that I might need to maintain my health and to protect me, right, from maybe other things. So that's kind of how I look at supplementation. And those are the kind of takeaways for me when it comes to what I've kind of learned from competing, and then adding on what you guys said because I didn't even think about that.
Cleef, thank you for joining us, man. I
Guys,
do, I appreciate it. I know they do too.
thank you
Yeah.
guys, man. Definitely, I got to stand up for us six and over people, man. We got to stick together. One day we'll all be on that stage, Olympia. Hopefully, we all
Yeah.
be there.
Amazing.
Have a good
Oh
time.
man, I'm trying not to think about that. All right.
Yeah, especially. I know we gotta leave soon, but what's up with y'all? What y'all think about the point system? Now you gotta do a couple shows now.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
might want to save that for next episode. We
Yeah,
could be
yeah, we
all
don't have no
day talking
time.
about
That,
that.
that's another
yeah.
series.
We'll have
Yeah,
yeah. That's a good. I'm gonna write that one down because yeah, we start touching on that now. We're gonna be another 30 minutes.
yeah,
Oh
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
definitely,
Hey man, I appreciate you coming on, dude. We're definitely gonna do it again.
definitely.
And as soon as the schedule drops and I know what my stuff looks like, we'll have to get a training session in. Uh, I mean, I need to get through this health phase first, so I don't want you to beat me up, man.
Not at all.